Oh man, so excited. This, of course, is Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. If you're not familiar, Gloomhaven is the #2 game of all time, according to Board Game Atlas's rankings. If you want to see what the #1 is, you can go check that out. But according to Board Game Geek, the more established, it's the #1 game of all time, Gloomhaven, and it's been in that position for a few years. And so I have Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, basically the smaller box, more introductory version of the game here, and I'm gonna be opening it up for a little unboxing because it just got released over the weekend. And Phil got a copy for us to unbox and review, but also one for a giveaway. So go to BoardGameAtlas.com to find out more about that. Let's take a look at this though. Now, some background on me. My wife and I played through about 25 hours of Gloomhaven, the original. So got some love for the game and some experience. So that's kind of the perspective I'll have in looking at this. So let's take a look at what's inside. Welcome to Gloomhaven. We kind of have read this before anything else. Make sure you're not opening things you shouldn't be. I won't be opening anything that leads to a spoiler. This is just as you would open it as a first-time buyer of the product. So the Learn to Play, got the glossary here. Let's take a look at what's inside the Learn to Play first. Scenario, table of contents, playing the game, how things work. Very cool. And in my experience with the original Gloomhaven, here's a glossary. The instructions were about 51 pages long, but after reading through it all, first of all, it's very well written. Second of all, I felt like after reading it, I had like a 90% understanding of the game rules, and it was so easy just to jump in afterwards. This is the Supplemental scenario book. So this is the book that you'll attach to the actual scenario book to get the maps to their full size if needed. Look at the first page of the scenario book. So here's an example of the map. You have the spaces. These are starting points. These are monster enemies / obstacles. Very cool part of the game. You don't have to set up the map tiles and have those stored everywhere. That's just in the scenario books. I like that a lot. We got the location stickers so that as you're unlocking new scenarios, you're able to add these to the map. We have coins, got damage tokens. We have some obstacles here. Got 2 treasures, some more treasures, some more obstacles. These are the elements that come into play and can be part of the game. We have all these things that can happen to you if you get hit or attacked or stunned or whatever that is, poisoned. The enemy characters, some bosses. These are the characters you'll be fighting throughout the game through different scenarios. Here's some more of those. Here's where you'll see where those elements come into play. If they're not in there, they're strong or waning, you can use those if that's applicable, or your enemies can. Some more beautiful artwork of enemies. This looks like some traps. This is new to Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. So are these? These are new. What are these? Red Guard, Hatchet, Zealot. These are labels for enemies, it looks like. Some of those. Looks like the map is here. Beautiful. So small and simple. This is the town of Gloomhaven. Really nice sturdy board. We got the life and the victory points tracker. A little spinning dial. Very easy to use. I'm sure it includes 4 of those. Yep. This little container to hold items, very handy. Now in Gloomhaven, these mini cards determine the things that your enemies do. So that's a stack of those. Let's take a look at it. Very similar to Gloomhaven. Has the initiative and then the things that the enemy does. So the function of them, or if you're fighting a boss, you grab the boss deck. If you're fighting Vermling Scout, you get the Vermling Scout deck. There's all sorts of decks. But nice quality cards themselves. Very easy to shuffle. Got the stands for those enemies that we were showing earlier. Elite enemies, regular enemies, yellow, white. Bunch of baggies. This is awesome. I don't believe this was in the original Gloomhaven. We had to scavenge for our own baggies, so this is a nice little thing to have. These look like little status areas, encountered events, so you can put somewhere unavailable items, monster attack modifiers. These are just pieces of cardboard. Cursor's Bless, available items, new events. These are the enemy stats. So if you're fighting against an enemy, you can set the difficulty of the game by looking at the top left corner. 0, 1, 2, 3, and there should be a second side of blood tumor difficulties. That increases the difficulty. You can see got much more going on here for blood tumor 7 than you do for blood tumor 1 or 0, much lower stats. So this is how you increase the difficulty. And to know what you're fighting, you have these, they look kind of like CD cases. You slide it in there, only one is visible. And then you can determine which enemy, because they're all labeled. So if you have enemies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you put the damage tokens and any status tokens onto their corresponding number here. Super simple, very easy to understand system. Comes with 4 of these CD sleeves. Some of them only have up to 6, while others have up to 10. And we've got the little packages. We'll get to that in a bit. Let's finish through here. So in the original Gloomhaven, before you go out and complete a scenario, you have a little quest where you choose A or B. Little city scenarios. You do something in the city, you choose A or B. It affects the actual scenario that you're about to go into, giving you a benefit or a drawback or something like that. So there's a bunch of these here. I won't reveal the backs. This is a set of little achievements. Each scenario, if you complete one of these that you get randomly, you get a little check mark to help progress your character a little quicker. So it's a little bonus thing that you specifically go through, and your teammate is going through another one. You don't share that with each other. You can get extra bonuses that way. Here's some items that your characters can buy before they go into a scenario. So there's headgear, there's chest armor, leggings, weapons, items, potions, all sorts of cool stuff that you can buy and use depending on your character and the scenario. And here are the decks that actually affect what things happen. So if enemy is attacking you, you have the monster deck labeled with the M in the bottom left corner. You can see the M here. The idea here is if you're fighting an enemy and they attack you, their attack has -1, so they do 1 less damage. Or their attack has, you won't shuffle it every time, but the idea is they'll get +2 and kind of randomizes the effect they have, or multiplied by 2. Now this is a set of special ones, because every player has their own little mini deck that affects their attacks as well. So this, if you're a little before the scenario starts, thing says you have a curse. This is a curse that makes your attack ineffective, doesn't do any damage. Or a blessing, you can do double damage. And these would be in your deck temporarily for that scenario, depending on scenario conditions or things that happened before with the little city event. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these are all starting characters, so it's not a spoiler to open these up and take a look at them. Over here, however, this is sealed, so that means this would be a spoiler if I were to open that, so I'm not going to do that here. But you have the 4 character minis here that we can take a look at. So we can look at the minis for each of these starting characters. This is characters you get to choose from. All right, now let's take a look at them in this order. So we'll start with this. So you have the specific deck for the character, which is the basic one. I'm sure these are the upgrades that you can get, so we'll keep these to the side. We're not gonna open. But just like the monster one, mini deck that adds or subtracts to your attacks that happen. Now this is the basic set of powers that you have as a character. So as a hatchet. And so let's take a look at those. These will be the added ones that you can get as you level up, I'm sure. A little reference for the abilities. So it looks like there's a new system. So we have A in the top here, B, which is new. A and B is not a concept I'm familiar with yet, but having level 1 cards available, which are essentially the ones that are suggested you start with normally, and X, which are ones available to you when you start, even at level 1, that you can swap in and out depending on the scenario if you feel like they'll be helpful. Now I'm interested to see what A and B are for. But as you level up, you have access to new powers as well, and I'm very interested in what's in that other pack. Comes with these little tokens that you use for various parts of your cards. So an example, let's take a look. Some things last more than just a turn that it's used on. Let's see where an example of that would be. So like this, you'd put one of these little pieces onto here. So each time this is used, it moves over. You get victory points or experience, whatever you like to call it. Experience is the proper name. And then it runs out. So it's a multi-turn use card. Didn't really get a close look at the character card. Shows based on your level how much starting health you have, how many cards you start in your deck, and some background on the Inox hatchet. And this, for you, is how you name and keep track of leveling up and perks. These perks are the things in this deck that you add to your basic cards to power up. These notes are those check marks I mentioned earlier over here, that if you complete this during the scenario, you get a check mark, and that helps you level up, get more perks. Very cool system. So that looks like all for the Inox hatchet. All right, next one, we'll go through this character. All these will contain most of the similar things, so you don't need to look through each of these. That will be for you to do if you'd like to explore. All the types and abilities from each of the cards will have the same basic structure, the initiative number in the middle, the 2 attack and movement options, and so the types of characters there I'll go through in a future video, but for now, let's just take a look at the beautiful art, the human Void Warren. Very cool. Here's the third character, the Red Guard. Beautiful. We've got the Demolitionist. Beautiful art. Lots of very fun colors. So that is a look at the insides of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. My initial reaction is this is just another installment of Gloomhaven. It looks like a great way to get into the game and a much more conveniently sized box. And as a player who has played Gloomhaven already, this is just additional content, new characters, different things to go through. So it's still exciting, and I get to enjoy the game I already know that I like a lot. So that's Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, an unboxing of the game. If you want more content on this, you can take a look at our initial impressions. But that's Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion.